Merry Christmas, everyone. Very happy that you are here at the Basilica of St. Mary. The crowds have been wonderful. Our first three Masses this afternoon were very well attended. And this is a day to rejoice in the glory of God, God's incarnate Son, Jesus Christ. And it is a privilege to proclaim the gospel from our new St. John's Bible. This was gifted in honor of Michael O'Connell, our longtime pastor, and we dedicated this on Pentecost Sunday, and such a thrill to read from that beautiful manuscript. Earlier this month, friends, I had the privilege of attending a concert, a collaboration of our choir with musicians and Dr. Jacob Benda at St. Thomas University, and our own Patrick Schneider led the choir so beautifully. And there was one song that really struck me in its simplicity and how moving it was, and it's called "We Are Not Alone." And so Patrick guided the choir as they sang beautifully in another church that was designed by Emmanuel Masqueret at the University of St. Thomas. And this is what we heard, these words: "We are never alone, for God is with us. Now through all our days, always, forever and ever, we are never alone." Dear friends, on this most glorious night, the truth of Christmas remains, and it warms our heart to know that God truly became human. God entered into time and history out of deep and abiding love for the creation that God created. We were fallen, and indeed are fallen, and God came in the fullness of time, born of a virgin, to restore us, to renew us, to reconcile us through his Son, through Jesus. One of the things when I was preparing for the homily, I thought of all the families that gather, all the people that gather for Christmas, and there's a warmth in our hearts. And it's not just that we're going to gather with family and friends. There is something innately true about this story. We know this to be true. This is why we are here. This is why people all over the world, Christians, gather to celebrate Christmas. Because God loved us so much that God sent his only Son. And perhaps the most compelling and important title under which we call Jesus is Emmanuel. God with us, God for us, God redeeming us and restoring us. We believe this to be true, and we are not alone. Come what may, we live in a world that is often beset by violence and bloodshed and terror and sadness, loneliness, a lack of hope. What we celebrate tonight is hope, is light, is peace incarnate in Jesus Christ. God's incarnation is a game changer. St. Athanasius said centuries ago that God became human so that we might become like God. This is not some New Age slogan, but rather an eternal truth of our Christian faith. We become divinized through Jesus. We become more like Jesus when we receive Jesus in the Eucharist. This is an invitation to all of us to become more like God, because God, in God's humility, chose to become human. Archbishop Hebda preached beautifully at the 2 p.m. Mass earlier today at a packed basilica, and he spoke of the humility of the Christmas story. Bethlehem, a lonely outpost, a young 14 or 15-year-old Virgin Mary who says yes to that audacious message of the angel Gabriel. And today we read from Luke that the message is first delivered to the shepherds. There were no more lowly in Israel at that time, they are the first to receive the message, the humility of God. And we are called to receive this truth and to celebrate it also in humility. So what flows from the incarnation? Hope, divine hope, and peace. And as Christians, we can live and we must live as people of hope. We see things differently because we have hope. Hope does not disappoint. This is what Pope Francis said in opening the Jubilee year. Every 25 years, from 1300 on, we celebrate the great Jubilee year. This is a time for reconciliation and renewal and restoration. The incarnation is a game changer, and what flows from it is beauty, art, music, architecture. We had the Messiah here last weekend, and it was glorious, the foundation of which is the incarnation of God. The restoration of Notre Dame in Paris. This would not have happened. It wouldn't have been built or restored had God not become incarnate. And we will, with your help, restore this magnificent basilica in the coming months and years ahead. And you can see as you exit a little while from now, the mock-up of the clean stone and the plaster and the paint, what this glorious basilica will look like once restored in a couple of years with your help. And by the way, we are going to restore that organ as well. That is in the plan. It always seems to give out on Christmas Eve. Maybe God is saying, restore my organ, right? And so we will do that as well. So friends in Christ, this is a glorious night. This is a night to celebrate the love of God, the incarnate love of God in Christ Jesus. So how finally can we respond? God is with us in his incarnate Son. Are we with God? This is our only response, to say yes to God's invitation to be with God, to be with Jesus, to open our lives to the Eucharist, which is the greatest gift given to the church down through the ages, to be with God in God's saints, the glorious women and men from 2 millennia who lived an extraordinary life of virtue and faith, to be with God in the poor, in the marginalized, in the forgotten, in the dispossessed, in the migrant, to be with God. This is who we are called to be as Christians. And think of what Catholics could do together in this nation and this world that is in so much need of light. If we answer that question, are we with God? God is with us. So friends, my heart is full of hope and peace on this glorious night, gratitude for the great numbers that we have seen in the Mass throughout the day. Let us bind together, bound by the great love of God and by this enduring truth of Christmas, that God so loved humanity that he sent his only Son to be with us. We are not alone.